The invisible wound isn't on your skin, it's in your presence. Have you noticed? The harder you try to prove your worth, the less she seems to see you. You give her attention, you give her presence, you give her space, but in the end, her silence weighs more than every word you say. It feels like you're always chasing something that keeps pulling away at the same pace you run toward it. This is the silent wound most men carry, the belief that constant effort creates attraction. But effort doesn't earn respect, it breeds predictability, and predictability kills desire. Because a woman's mind isn't drawn to the obvious, not the guaranteed, not the easy. Her instinct is moved by scarcity and by uncertainty. That's why men who don't beg, who don't explain, who don't justify, attract the most. They don't chase, they don't rush. They live solid lives with a presence that speaks louder than words. And that presence creates tension. Tension that triggers her primal fear, the fear of losing you. Because the trap is predictability. Every sweet gesture, every quick text, every effort to prove interest makes you predictable. And the obvious doesn't seduce. The obvious doesn't intrigue. The obvious doesn't hold desire. Feminine desire isn't born from what's given freely. It's born from what challenges, from what might slip away. That's the invisible wound, the need for constant validation. You think always being available will make her recognize your value. But the opposite happens. Predictability kills mystery. And without mystery, there's no fascination. It's like reading a book when you already know the ending. You may respect the story, but you don't feel like turning the pages anymore. That's the difference between presence and dependence. A man who's grounded in his own worth radiates magnetism. A man who's emotionally dependent radiates neediness. And she feels it without you even saying a word. When loyalty turns into servitude, what's born isn't admiration, it's boredom. Desire doesn't feed on guarantees. It feeds on the tension between what's given and what could still be lost. That's why the man who keeps something rare inside himself, the man who never gives everything away, is the one she chases. Not because he plays games, but because his life is so full of purpose that no one can ever own him completely. And then comes the power of absence. When you don't rush to respond, something happens inside her. It's not rational, it's visceral. A shadow of doubt creeps in, the fear of being forgotten. Your silence at the right moment isn't weakness, it's strength. It's not rejection, it's scarcity. Since the beginning of time, the female mind has been wired to sense loss, distance, threats to connection. So when you don't rush to prove you're there, when you don't run to secure every detail, her mind starts to race. Who is he with? Why hasn't he answered? Has he lost interest? That space becomes fuel. While you think insisting keeps the connection alive, it's the opposite is true. It's the silence that keeps the fire burning. But don't confuse absence with abandonment. Abandonment is weakness. Strategic absence is strength. The reversal happens when you stop orbiting around her and you place yourself back on the throne. Not with arrogance, not with disdain, but with purpose. When your life is full, friends, projects, passions, she realizes she's not competing with emptiness. She's competing with a man who is already complete. That's the shift. That's when she stops being the sun and starts fighting for a place in your universe. When you become the prize, the game changes. She doesn't just want your attention, she works to earn it. Here's the silent test. The power of conversation isn't in words, it's in energy. Your silence is louder than 1,000 phrases because silence reveals everything. It shows whether you're desperate for approval or solid in who you are. Most men panic at silence. They rush to fill it with jokes, explanations, endless words. But a man who masters silence radiates security, He doesn't need to beg for space. He is the space. And in that silence, she leans in. She wonders what you're thinking. She feels the mystery, and that mystery makes her chase. At the core of it all, it isn't about tricks or lines. It's about presence. The presence of a man who isn't ruled by anxiety. A man who doesn't crumble in silence. A man who doesn't need to prove himself with words because his energy speaks louder than anything he could say. In the end, she won't remember every story you told. She'll remember how your presence made her feel. And when you master this invisible presence, she won't just notice you. She'll chase you. Because your silence, your absence, and your presence made you unforgettable.